I have very fond memories, and it's going back a ways, of when we used to partner with Indie 101 and do the CNC Music Festival. Named so because it was CFMU and C101. But I mean, if you know your dance music, you know we had to call the accompanying CD collection Everybody Dance Now, volume whatever. That joke was probably lost on those who weren't my age, but
there's a demographic.
There's a demographic.
I love that one.
Welcome to Gritty History, a podcast from the City of Hamilton and Hamilton Civic Museums, taking you beyond the physical museums and diving into the fascinating stories from the city's past and present. In this audio series, we'll explore the people and places that make Hamilton, Ontario so special. Our first series, Liner Notes, digs into the work of Hamilton music. My name is Meredith Leonard, and I'm a senior curator at Hamilton Civic Museums. Joining me for this series is Russ Piva, aka Stereo Russ, musician and host of Inside the Music with Stereo Russ. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's press play.
Today we're going to look at life at a radio station, and more specifically, a community radio station. Today we're joined by Jamie Tenant, musician, author, and program director at 93.3 CFMU FM at McMaster University. Jamie is a McMaster University graduate in English who began his creative journey as a musician and record reviewer for outlets such as View Weekly, Chart, and the Toronto Sun. He co-founded the Hamilton Independent Media Awards and has contributed to major events such as the Junos and the Polaris Prize. Today, Jamie serves as the program director at 93.3 CFMU FM, located at McMaster University, and is the host of his long-running show, Get Lit. Today, we are joined by Jamie at CFMU to talk all things community radio and are so grateful to be here with him today. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, man, thanks. No problem at all. I don't usually get called a musician in my bio intros, so I was like, wow, well, no, I was the singer, so I'm not really technically a musician, but if you're in a band, I think you can call that being a musician, right?
Yeah, if you've built one bridge, you're a bridge builder.
Exactly.
So if you've done music, you're a musician. And above everything else, definitely a champion for music and in many respects, a music historian here in Hamilton.
Just by picking it up as I've gone along, you know what I mean? Like, I certainly have written enough about local bands, and my knowledge is waning a bit now because I've kind of pivoted to fiction and to books, but nevertheless, you can't help but glean things when you work at a campus radio station, that's for sure.
So to get us started, could you tell us a little bit about what community radio is?
Oh gosh, that's like a real sort of, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be kind of question. Community radio is community, which sounds like a glib answer, but I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Technically, stations like this were sort of allowed to exist, if you will, like be licensed by the CRTC to broadcast, because they were supporting all the things that the mainstream didn't support. So if you are a giant corporate radio station, you're not playing underrepresented genres of music. We're not for profit, which means that we're not trying to chase the money, and we could all use it, but we're not going to start playing a lot of Chapel Roan just in order to try to sell more advertising. It doesn't work that way. And then on top of the music, though, there's also covering local arts. There's also local multicultural communities providing radio in their language or a combination of English and their language, which no one else can do, right? That was something that was really important. The spoken word programming, local news, local information, interviews, all these different things, but it's always focused in some way or another on community, even when it's just a music show that's maybe they're not playing anything more than their 35% Canadian content or whatever, but it's still a person from our community sharing their love of music with people in our community.
What is the state of community radio today?
I would say that I really do believe that we've become more relevant because of the enshittification of the internet. I feel like campus radio comes out pretty darned well, and all the stuff that we do now that we did then is relevant again. Again, because of resources, because Spotify, to throw a particular name under the bus, is a corporate entity, and we are not. And so we're going to go back and champion the local bands. And a lot of bands also are finding, I think, we got our Bandcamp, we got on the Spotify, we got on the right playlist. This is all really valuable stuff, but also they're kind of like, well, no one around here knows us, because that's sort of, we might have got a bunch of hits or even some downloads, maybe even some purchases in all these places, but we still can't really fill a room in Hamilton. So we're speaking to Hamilton.
Yeah, it's in some ways, we've always felt like working on this exhibition, like super comfortable here at community radio because we're like community museums. And there's something really magical about having a space where community can come together on their own terms and do really cool creative things with other cool creative people. So I think that's such a valuable thing to offer, not only the university community, but like Hamilton as a whole.
Yeah, and that's the thing about CFMU that's kind of cool. And I guess most campus-based stations are the same, where you're not just serving the students, you're also serving the alumni or the people who've never set foot on the campus before at all. Anything that's within the broadcast zone on FM or anywhere, I guess, online. I think that's it's crucial to connect the tens of thousands of students who go here with the community in which they live, merging two communities that are technically the same community, right? So,
what's the importance that this station provides to those in the community, whether they are emerging artists or emerging media professionals? And do you have any maybe success stories?
Oh gosh,
or notable shows that have really been able to thrive because of CFMU?
First of all, there's the experience that the volunteer gets. That may lead to something professional. It may not, but we've had plenty of volunteers here. So, emerging media professionals go on to be well-emerged media professionals. For sports fans here, Lindsay Hamilton from TSN was an employee here, like 12 years ago or something, maybe more. I lose track of time at some point. And now she's like a really important person in the sports world, sports media in Canada, which is fantastic. That kind of thing happens to us a lot. They might not go directly into something as high profile, but they go into something behind the scenes, perhaps. Our most recent success story is we had a young fellow and a friend of mine named Harrison, and was just really dedicated. So we gave him a chance to work here part-time. He just, nailed it. And the next thing you know, he's a regular video reporter for CTV Winnipeg. Which is kind of the world he wanted to get into, was the sort of videographer, video reporter situation. So yeah, here's this guy who got this job. This is really recently too. This is like this summer, who got it because of CFMU, which is wild, which is so cool. As for the community, I mean, I'm not going to pretend that a band gets number one here and that's it for them. They're off to the moon. But certainly, like I said, like if you do, the other stations in Canada might take notice, and then they're going to report that to the NACC charts, I think it's the North American charts, and the Earshot charts, which is Canada. And if you're in the top 5, it's featured on our homepage and in a video that we often do. We do videos, the top 5 songs of the week kind of thing. Like, it's all attention, and it's all valuable, and it's certainly... Again, I think because we're so focused on community, it helps spread the word in the community. And there's been a ton of students here who, now maybe they're a little more adventurous because they're involved in campus radio in the first place, but students here who pick up on local bands who become enormous fans and go see them and become part of their audience because they heard them here, because they were in our new releases section. So that's a very, very cool thing as well.
So I'm sure there's a lot that happens here. There's so many sort of different activities that happens in this space in a studio. Is there sort of a typical, like, what happens here day to day? Like, take us behind the scenes of a day at CFMU. What does that look like?
Oh, everyone's different though too, right? So we all do different jobs. We have Sandeep Bhandari, who's our admin director, who does a lot of the tech stuff, and that's been, so at any point he's in his office working on trying to figure out what's going on with our broadcast tower, or taking our broadcast from old-fashioned copper wire to over the internet for the FM, which is all stuff that just happened. Music director is adding music, putting together committees to do various things. Everyone's shooting videos. Sam and Derek, who do a lot of our video work, they're shooting the top 5, or they're going out and reporting on something. We'll have to send them down to the exhibit to do a video on that. Obviously, that's got to happen. Our production person will be in the room behind us, and she'll be working hard. Isabel will be working hard to train all these new hosts who are coming in who can't make the time slots that we have, so they pre-record the show, which is something that you do frequently, Russell. And then I'm in my office doing the hodgepodgey mishmash of things that I do, setting up schedules, training, volunteer coordinating, fundraising, all kinds of exciting and boring things. But I think if let's say you're a student, you're a second-year student, and you kind of just come into the station, what you're going to see is a bunch of people hanging out maybe in the music library, browsing music, just sitting, doing homework, hanging out in the lobby, chatting. There's going to be someone in the room on the other side of us broadcasting a show live, perhaps, or maybe a pre-recorded show's running. Like, there's a lot of bustle and energy, especially during the school year. There's just a lot of things going on here at any given time, which is really, really fun.
If you're enjoying this conversation, you might want to check out the Punching In exhibition, which explores the work of Hamilton's music scene, on display at the Visitor Experience Center, located at 28 James Street North, throughout 2026. Now, back to our conversation. And what's been really so interesting about this exhibition is like figuring out all of the different people who are involved in making this sort of community around music. So involved in like hearing about all the different jobs that are involved just here at the radio station. Like, there's so many different ways to get into the industry and to support it and to help like lift up and make music that's shared really widely. It's really inspirational.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that I've seen some really interesting interviews, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, Russ. You had an episode where you had Adam Bentley on. He's a great example of somebody who works in the Hamilton music industry, and he's invaluable. But also to the music fan, possibly invisible, because it's a behind-the-scenes kind of thing, right? I would say a lot of CFMU, I suppose if you're on the air, that gives you a bit of profile, but a lot of the work here is done invisibly by students and community members alike, So yeah, there are so many people. And what you're doing now is coincidentally upping the Hamilton music scene in a big way, right? So it might not be a standard part of your job, but it's what you're doing right now. It's a lot of people who do that too, kind of dovetail with the music scene a lot.
Some people really love being music, but they don't want to be, in the bright lights. They want to be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So maybe for someone like that, like, how did you get involved in all this?
I think for me, it was like dipping my toe, kicking my toe into that spotlight ring a little bit and being in a band, because I just met so many people. But I would say that my love of writing led me to go to the Silhouette here on campus and be like, hey, can I write? And they basically said, nah, but okay, you can do record reviews. So I think the first album I reviewed was a Temple the Dog record. And that's how it started for me. And I ended up sort of just stumbling sideways into every gig that I had. So I did that, and then I had a little zine that I put out anonymously with some friends, and then that led to, it wasn't music related, but to a weekly column at The Spectator for, I guess, about 3 years, just about youth issues, right? Generation X, as it was called, or X Generation. What was my column called? Jeez, I don't know. It's been a long time. But that led to music writing for The Spectator and for View Weekly. And then I moved to Toronto and worked for Chart and worked for all these other things. But then there was other sides of it too. I ended up, because I had that experience, I had a lot of friends who would say, hey, Tennant, you're unemployed. We're going on a short tour. You want to come and sell our merch or be our road manager? So I got into that side of things, road management and merch tech in finger quotes. You can't see them, but I just made them. The guy selling T-shirts and basically being a roadie for at least one tour. And then because of that experience, I went to Toronto and ended up getting a job with a publicist. And I had never done publicity before per se, but I got that job there because of that experience. So yeah, it was kind of just shambling back and forth from thing to thing. I'd been a CFMU volunteer as an undergrad. So I came back to Hamilton from living overseas for a spell and applied for the job and got it. And I've been here for 27 years, which is wild. But yeah, I think it's just, to answer the actual question, if someone wants to get involved, just get involved. And that sounds, again, that's kind of like me saying community. It's about community. But I mean, there are so many different ways. Become a fan. Go see the bands, meet the other fans, meet the bands, find out, can I work the door for you guys? Because I think you're great. that sounds like a small thing, but, working the door for somebody, you meet a lot of people. And you could end up, again, the road management thing. It was really, I wasn't particularly adept at road management, but that was kind of a thing that just came from meeting all these bands.
So it's interesting just about like being in the spaces and like being in spaces where things, and in this case, music happens. And I think Hamilton's got so many great, wonderful venues on campus and in the community where those kind of like that kind of alchemy can happen. So I think it's a really magical community that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love hearing stories about different workplaces and just these sort of amazing things that happen in Hamilton. Do you have any fun CFMU lore that you can share with us, or just a fun story or something that sticks out in your memory from your years here?
I've been here for so long that it's difficult for me to I started here in 1988 as a volunteer and became staff in summer of 99. In terms of events, every single fundraising show we've done has been a blast. I remember Jim Marino, a very popular host here, does a folk show, the Freewheelin' Folk Show on Saturday mornings when he had his, I don't even recall, 10th, 15th, 20th anniversary show. And I came in on the Saturday morning and this place was rammed with folk musicians. Linda, who used to be in the Spirit of the West a long time ago, drove up from the States for the morning to do Jim's show. And it was just that moment where I'm like, this is wild. What a party this is. And this is just how people support one show, which is just amazing. I have very fond memories, and it's going back a ways, of when we used to partner with Indie 101 and do the CNC Music Festival. Named so because it was CFMU and C101. But I mean, if you know your dance music, we had to call the accompanying CD collection Everybody Dance Now, volume whatever. And I don't know, that joke was probably lost on those who weren't my age, but
there's a demographic.
There's a demographic.
I love that one.
That was great. I have very fond memories of that because we did some really unique things, and we would, Gunnar Smith, who of course does a show here still, Steel City Music, and on Indie. He does it on both stations. He and I would simulcast a show about the festival. We'd go up to his station, but there was we share a tower, a broadcast tower, so we could flip a switch and be broadcasting the same thing on both frequencies, and we would do that. And during Supercrawl, we would go to a location, most of which are gone now, but a couple of empty storefronts, homegrown Hamilton. We'd set up our mics, not unlike the situation we have going on right now, and broadcast that live and interview the artists. I got to interview all kinds of different bands, Canadian artists, other Yola Tango was on the show, some really cool stuff. And Strombo, I made my poor long-suffering spouse, I saw Strombopoulos walking down the street and I went, go see if George will be on the show. And instead of getting told to go away, she's awesome and went, yeah, and ran out, and George said yeah. So we had like a half an hour chat with Strombo, which was fantastic because he knew all about Supercrawl, he knew all about Hamilton. He was kind of like a quiet guy until the mic went on, then he became Strombo. It was very cool. But that kind of thing, Rick, really stands out where we're in the community doing something fun. And that festival kind of became Supercrawl in a outside kind of way because we were doing it when Tim from Sonic Onion approached us and said, here's what we have in mind. How can we work with you? And I mean, I won't say our festival became Supercrawl, but we kind of wrapped it in and then worked with them in the first few years as they were setting up. So that was kind of a cool thing. Yeah, these memories. And then there's all the personal, the funny stuff that happens, right? Like things when I first started and this station was based out of Hamilton Hall. And I can remember we used to broadcast during Welcome Week outside the building. It was only for visibility, it was sort of beside Hamilton Hall. We just threw wires out Sandeep's office window and plugged them in and had this board and all this stuff. And I remember it was under a tent, and if it was thunder and lightning, we had to evacuate. But then we also couldn't let the gear get stolen. So I would just sleep under the tent on the couch and hope I didn't get hit by lightning. It wasn't very smart, but things like that stick in my mind for sure. And the move to this building, moving 30,000 records over one shopping cart at a time. It was just a wild thing to do.
That's something you'll never forget.
No, exactly, right? Two of my very good friends met here and are married and have been together for a very long time now. So that's kind of a cool thing.
CFMU love story?
Well, technically, I met my wife because of this place. No, absolutely I did. I don't remember meeting here specifically, but it was through people here. So yeah, if that was it, I'd be pretty happy.
You know, when you're listening to the radio, driving or whatever, and you go to, Edge 102 and the commercial radio stations.
Sure.
You know what to expect. But then when I flip to 93.3, you don't know what you're going to get.
No clue.
And I just want to know, like, is it lost on you that you can champion like marginalized voices in a way that like no one else can and does?
This is one of the most amazing things about what we do. It's also one of our biggest challenges, right? You tune into Station X, they have a format. And so they're pretty much playing the same stuff, maybe not the same songs if they're a good station, but the same kind of stuff all day long, right? There's a thread, and we are all over the map. Just today, as we are recording this podcast, there is currently a prog rock show on the air. That'll be followed by a show about health, 2 shows about health and wellness that are spoken word shows, then a half an hour of gospel, and then after that, a science-based spoken word show, and then the fantastic Kristen Archer with I Heart Hamilton, which, like your own show, is very dedicated to what's going on in the community. Like that's not even the kookiest like mashup of shows that we have. It's difficult sometimes, right? Because you have to have a very open-minded listener who's going to have us on the preset all the time, because surely something we're doing is not their jam, right? But that said, because we're like that, we can do whatever we want. We had a guy, rest in peace, Desmond Miklos. He came and said, he's a driving instructor, and he came in, he was my driving instructor. I didn't learn till I was 30, right? So he came in and said, I want to do a show about safe driving. And we were like, really? Like that's a weekly show about, oh, come on. He did that show for years. Years. Yeah, he had to supplement some of the show with music, but he had police officers on and other driving instructors on and car show people on. Like it worked somehow. And that's testament to the volunteer passion for what they're doing. And I just think the opportunity to be able to put stuff like that that's ridiculously niche, it kind of mirrors what you can do on the internet, right? There are some niche TikTok accounts, that's for sure, right? And pretty niche podcasts. We can put those out there, and we're an existing platform. So I feel like sometimes, although we're a small station and we don't have a huge profile, we're not like putting out a podcast on Spotify. Not only there's like 90 other podcasts with the same name of your podcast, let alone the 100,000 other podcasts that are as niche as yours, right? We kind of exist already. We're kind of like, because we're here, we're an existing platform that's a little bit less crowded, So these niche shows can be found a little easier, at least again, within the community.
I think what I love the most about this station is that there's every different voice, every different genre, whether it's spoken word, music, there's a home for it here.
Yeah. And it used to be that if you did like a 1 to 2 a.m. show, it's like, I'm sorry for that awful slot. You're kind of lost. With the website, let's stream it when you want.
This feels like an unfair question to ask you. But
I wasn't sure if you were going to ask it, but here we are.
Right, here we are.
Oh, gosh.
We're going to do it.
Here we go.
Favorite Hamilton artist, past or present, or just a Hamilton artist you're listening to or you'd like to lift up or hype a little?
I could make this a really long answer if I wanted to. I'll try not to. I am getting older, so I have my favorites, and they're ingrained, right? So I go back to Teenage Head, who I heard when I was 10. Go back to my 20s when I got into the scene and suddenly was, befriending and listening to the Killjoys and Junk House. In the early 2000s, when there was this rush of fantastic electronic music, Junior Boys, Jesse Lanza, Caribou, of course, is one of my all-time favorites, but Dan hasn't lived here for a very long time, but still count him as a Hamilton artist. And then, over the years, there's been so many. It's difficult for me to even keep track. All the Sonic Onion bands, like all of them, I was a fan of at some point. and continue to be. They still release great records. Stuff that's happening now, there's a lot of good bands out there. I'm a big fan of Cute. You turned me on to this band on your show, and they're Cute fans. And I'm trying to remember.
Public Health.
Public Health. I was going to say Public Service, and I knew it was wrong.
Yeah,
so
Public Health. Yeah.
Public Health. Very, very cool stuff. I like the noisy sort of post-rock thing. Big fan of a few bands that have been around for a bit. Basement Revolver, Elevator, Lost Faculty are doing great stuff now. Reckless Harbor are doing great folk stuff now. And I'm missing like 40. You know what I mean? Like the bands just keep coming. Friends of mine are in Slow Reader. I think they're a fantastic local band. And the stuff just keeps coming. You know, longtime fan of Lee Reed. Excited about the new Eclipse EP that's coming out. Like he's an old school and old friend, actually, hip hop guy. But yeah, I'm always impressed. Like, I remember when Alex Worms first wandered into this station and seemed like she might have been 17. I don't know. I mean, students start young now. And she was, she was good. She was ambitious. She was good. And now her new EP is great. Like, wow, has she, like, really, as you do, matured as an artist, and the songwriting is better and the production is fantastic. And that's a cool thing to see, like it's really neat to see these bands. And then, of course, the big story, I guess, would be Arkells, right? Like CFMU has a very close relationship with that band because they were called Charlemagne and they hung out with people who worked here, like, which is wild. Aaron Goldstein, Toronto producer, musician, he's in a band called Espanola and was the music director on, and this is very temporal, so I realize by the time this podcast airs, it'll be wrong, but just like last night or the night before, there was a big 80th birthday party at Massey Hall for Neil Young. Aaron was the music director of that, which is bananas. But and Luke from the Dirty Nil performed at it, and those guys, him and Kyle are acquaintances of mine. But yeah, watching Arkells, go from having their little Charlemagne EP on CD to putting out songs on our Everybody Dance Now compilations and growing and so organically, right? Like they're a Mac band, then they're like a small Hamilton band, then they're like a big Hamilton band, and then they're like a regional band, and then of course they became, I think, inarguably the biggest rock band in Canada, right? Selling out Scotiabank Center or whatever it's even called now. Is it still called that? I don't know. I lose track. But yeah, wild to watch that happen and watch their support reverse. Like, we're putting out CDs. Do you want to be on it? That'd be awesome for us. And then 8 years later, it's like, hey, look, I know you're huge, but can you still give us a song for the CD? Sure. Yeah, it's just like been so cool to watch that happen. So they're a band that will always strike me as like just a wild success story that we got to be part of that success in a small way in the very beginning, which I think is cool.
This is the one question we ask on every podcast. So it's so interesting for me, especially as someone who's not in this scene, to like hear all these people be like, oh, I'll add those to my playlist. It's great.
Well, I'm just, the fear is that I'm 100% sure that I have good friends in bands that I didn't just name.
Hopefully, by the time we interview, everybody,
the bands will all
be covered.
Yeah,
for the most part. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. It's my pleasure. This was fun.
Thank you for listening to the Gritty History Podcast, brought to you by the City of Hamilton and Hamilton Civic Museums. This episode was hosted by Meredith Leonard and Russ Piva. Produced and edited by Stereo Russ Media. Original music by Emma Whale. This series' episodes were recorded at CFMU Studios at McMaster University, Catherine North Studios, and Bridgeworks. If you enjoyed listening, please share this podcast with someone who loves all things Hamilton and history. Please rate, review, and subscribe. If you'd like to explore more, you can visit us online at hamiltoncivicmuseums.ca. Thank you for listening.